At my art opening, my husband handed me divorce papers. I won't fund your crazy old hobbies. My kids laughed at my drawings. I signed and left. Within 24 hours, everything I thought I'd lost would become the weapon that destroyed them. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from. And subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. The gallery smelled like cheap wine and pity. I stood in the corner of the Belltown art space watching 17 people pretend to look at my paintings. 17. I'd sent 200 invitations. Richard arrived at 7:30 wearing his courtroom smile. The one that said he'd already won. He kissed my cheek like we were still the couple in our Christmas cards. Kevin walked 2 steps behind him, checking his phone. My son hadn't looked at a single painting. "Mom, this is actually kind of sad," Kevin said, loud enough for the nearest group to hear. Like, really sad. A woman in a black turtleneck turned away. I recognized her from the Seattle Arts Council. She'd ignored 3 of my emails. Richard touched my elbow. "Evelyn, we should talk. Not now." I watched an elderly man in a corduroy jacket study my largest piece, Harbor Morning 2019. Oils on canvas, 40 hours of work. He nodded slowly, then moved to the refreshment table. "Now." Richard's fingers tightened. "This has gone on long enough." He pulled me toward the back office. Kevin followed, still scrolling. The gallery owner, Marcus Chen, looked up from his laptop and immediately found somewhere else to be. Richard closed the door, pulled a manila envelope from his briefcase, set it on Marcus's desk between a coffee mug and a stack of unpaid invoices. "Divorce papers." He said it the way other people say, grocery list. Casual. Done. "I'm not funding this anymore, Evelyn. Your crazy old hobbies. Your midlife crisis. Whatever you want to call it." The envelope sat there. Manila. Legal-sized. My name typed on a white label. "You're serving me at my art opening. You're having an art opening with 17 people." Richard checked his watch. A Rolex I'd given him for our 20th anniversary. 16 now. Someone just left. Kevin laughed. Actually laughed. "Mom, come on. Look at this place. Look at these paintings. They're like something from a hotel lobby. You're 58 years old pretending to be an artist." I looked at my son. 29 years old, marketing consultant. Made $140,000 a year writing Instagram captions for tech companies. I'd driven him to art class every Saturday for 6 years when he was young. He'd wanted to be an illustrator. "You're a retired 3rd-grade teacher who paints in the basement." Richard pushed the envelope closer. "Sign these. Let's end this with some dignity." "You want to talk about dignity? You're serving me divorce papers at my first gallery show." First and last. He opened the envelope, pulled out a pen, set it on top of the papers. "Sign, Evelyn. Kevin and I have dinner reservations at 8. I picked up the pen. It was heavy, expensive, the kind Richard bought in bulk from some executive supply catalog. The papers were thick. 30, maybe 40 pages. I flipped to the signature page. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. "You get the house," Richard said. "I'm keeping the investment accounts, the vacation property, my retirement. You get the mortgage and the Subaru. Seems fair. You haven't worked in 4 years. You've spent," he pulled out his phone, scrolled, "$47,000 on art supplies, classes, and studio fees since you retired. That's my money, Evelyn. Money I earned. We've been married 34 years. Exactly. Time to cut our losses." He tapped the signature line. "Sign." Through the office door, I could see the gallery. My paintings. 32 pieces. 3 years of work. Harbor mornings and city rain and the mountains at dusk. Colors I'd mixed myself. Compositions I'd planned for months. No one was looking at them. The woman in the turtleneck was leaving. The elderly man in corduroy had his coat on. I signed my name. Evelyn Marie Whitmore. The pen made a scratching sound against the paper. "Thank you." Richard took the papers, slid them back into the envelope. "This is better for everyone." Kevin was already at the door. "Can we go? I'm starving." I set the pen down, looked at Richard, really looked at him. 59 years old. Silver hair he dyed every 3 weeks. A face I'd woken up next to for 12,000 mornings. Get out of my gallery show. It's not your show anymore. I called Marcus an hour ago. Told him I'm pulling my funding. He's closing the gallery next week. This, Richard gestured at the walls, is over. He left. Kevin followed. The door clicked shut. I sat in Marcus's chair. The office smelled like old coffee and failure. Through the window, I watched Richard and Kevin climb into Richard's Mercedes. A silver E-Class. Vanity plates. Council 1. I went back to the gallery. 13 people now. A couple near the door was whispering. They stopped when they saw me. Marcus appeared at my elbow. Evelyn, I'm so sorry. I didn't know he was going to. It's not fine, but I have to close. He's my primary investor. Without his money, I can't make rent. End of the month. 2 weeks. He looked at my paintings. I can help you move these back to storage, or your house, wherever you want. The couple left. A man in a Seahawks cap took a business card from the front desk and walked out without looking at anything. By 8 o'clock, the gallery was empty. Marcus turned off half the lights. We stood together looking at my work. They're good, he said. I mean it. They're really good, but not good enough. Not good enough to keep the lights on. He handed me a glass of the cheap wine. I'm sorry, Evelyn. I drove home in the Subaru, a 2012 Outback with 140,000 miles and a broken passenger side mirror. My house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac in Ballard, a 1960s ranch I'd repainted twice, yellow with white trim, a garden I'd maintained for 30 years. Richard's Mercedes sat in the driveway. I parked on the street, walked up the path. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the living room looked different, lighter. I couldn't figure out why at first. Then I realized. The paintings were gone. 4 pieces I'd kept on the walls. My favorites. Morning Light on the Sound, the Pike Place Market in Rain, a self-portrait from 2018, all gone. Richard appeared from the kitchen holding a beer, my beer, a 6-pack of Manny's Pale Ale I'd bought on Saturday. What are you doing here? Still my house for 2 more weeks. Tenancy in common. He drank from the bottle. I'm getting the rest of my things. Kevin's loading the truck. Where are my paintings? Garage. I needed the wall space. I'm showing the house next Wednesday. Potential buyers don't want to see your stuff. I walked past him, through the kitchen. The door to the basement was open. The light was on. I'd spent 3 years in that basement, painting every morning from 6 to noon. The space smelled like linseed oil and turpentine. My easel stood in the corner. My palette table. My brushes in jars. The canvases were gone. I'd had 89 finished pieces stored down there, wrapped in plastic, cataloged in a notebook. 3 years of work. I turned around. Richard stood in the doorway. Storage unit, out in Renton. I'll text you the address. I had every right. This is my house too. Your paintings were taking up space I need for my gym equipment. Kevin appeared behind him carrying a box of Richard's law books. Dad, the truck's full. We should go. They left at 9. I watched from the kitchen window as they loaded the last box. The Mercedes and a U-Haul, both pulled away. I went down to the basement. My easel sat empty. The palette table held dried-out paint tubes, the jars of brushes, the rags. On the floor, a single canvas, face down. They'd missed it. I turned it over. Harbor Morning, 2019. The piece the old man in corduroy had studied at the gallery. I'd finished it 2 days ago, brought it home to varnish. I set it on the easel, looked at it under the basement's fluorescent lights, the brushwork, the composition, the color balance I'd worked so hard to get right. It was better than good. It was the best work I'd ever done. I sat on the stool, looked at my painting, and for the first time in 6 hours I smiled. Richard thought he'd humiliated me, served me divorce papers in front of 17 witnesses, closed my gallery show, took my house and my money and my life. But he'd missed one thing. He'd never actually looked at my paintings, never seen what I could do. That was going to be a problem for him. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts, found the name I needed, Jessica Barnes, art teacher from Roosevelt High School. We'd taught together for 12 years before I retired. I texted, "You still in touch with that art critic from the Times? The one who came to your retirement party?" The response came in 30 seconds. "Melissa? Yeah, why?" "I need her to look at something." My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. An address in Renton. Storage unit 447. Then a second text. "Your paintings are there. Rent's paid through the end of the month. After that, they're your problem." I looked at the painting on my easel. Harbor morning, 6 a.m. light on Elliott Bay. The water. The sky. The city waking up. Richard had spent 34 years not seeing me, not seeing my work, not seeing what I was capable of. In 2 weeks, everyone would see. I just had to figure out how. The call came 3 days later while I was sorting through boxes in the storage unit. Jessica's voice was strange, excited and confused at the same time. "Evelyn, where are you right now?" I sat on a stack of wrapped canvases in Unit 1247, 10 by 10 feet, climate-controlled, $180 a month, 89 paintings stacked floor to ceiling. Renton, the storage place. "Why? Have you seen the news?" "I don't watch the news." "Check your phone. Seattle Times website, arts section. Right now." I pulled up the site on my phone. The headline took 3 seconds to load. "Anonymous collector's works fetch $40 million at auction below it." A photo. My painting. Evening Ferry 2021, the one I'd finished last summer. The Bainbridge Island Ferry against a purple sunset. "Evelyn? You there?" I scrolled down. More photos. Market Rain 2020. Mountain Dawn 2019. Harbor Morning 2019. 8 of my paintings. All pieces Richard had moved to storage. The article was bylined by someone named Thomas Yates, arts correspondent, a private collector known only as R. Whitmore consigned 47 works to Bellingham Auction House last month. The collection, created over 15 years, remained in private hands until this week's unprecedented sale. Collectors from Tokyo, London, and New York competed for pieces that critics are calling the most significant emergence of contemporary Pacific Northwest landscape art in 2 decades. I read it 3 times. "Evelyn." Jessica's voice. "Are those your paintings? Jesus Christ. Your husband sold your paintings for $40 million? I scrolled through the photos, recognized everyone. Paintings I'd wrapped in plastic, cataloged in my notebook, stored in the basement until Richard moved them here, except they weren't here anymore. I stood up, started unwrapping canvases, counted them. 42. I'd had 89. Now I had 42. 47 were missing. I hung up, called the storage facility office. A teenage boy answered. "Yeah. Storage Solutions, this is Tyler." "This is Evelyn Whitmore, Unit 447. "Who else has access to my unit?" Let me check." Keyboard sounds. "Okay, so the account is under Richard Whitmore. He's listed as primary. You're listed as secondary. When did he last access the unit?" "Says here he was in on January 15th. That was a Monday. Came in with a truck. Facilities manager noted it because he loaded a lot of stuff. January 15th. 2 weeks ago. 4 days before my gallery opening." "Did he take things out or put things in?" "Report says out. He had a moving truck. Left with it full. Came back an hour later, dropped off some boxes, left again." I looked at the 42 paintings still here. All my early work. The pieces I'd done in 2018 and 2019, before I'd figured out my style, before I'd learned proper color theory and composition. He'd taken the good ones. I hung up, sat on the concrete floor, looked at my phone. $40 million, except the article said they were his. I called Jessica back. "That art critic, Melissa. Can you get me her number? Just send it, please." The number came through in a text. I called immediately. A woman answered. Professional, clipped. "Melissa Drake. My name is Evelyn Whitmore. Jessica Barnes gave me your number. I need to talk to you about the Bellingham auction." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry. Who?" "Evelyn Whitmore. The paintings that sold. They're mine." The auction listed the artist as R. Whitmore. R is my husband. Richard. I painted them. Every single one. More silence. Then a laugh. Not a mean laugh. A surprised one. "You're serious?" "Yes. I have photographs, dates, process photos, a notebook with every painting cataloged, sketches, color studies. Where are you right now? Renton? A storage unit. Stay there. I'm coming to you. Melissa Drake arrived 90 minutes later in a black Audi. Tall, 45, maybe 50, short gray hair, expensive glasses. She looked at the storage unit like it was a crime scene. I showed her everything: the notebook, photographs on my phone, paintings in progress, sketches, color studies, tubes of paint with my fingerprints in the dried paint around the caps. She took photos, made notes, examined the paintings I still had. "These are early works," she said. "You can see the development, the technique improving. The ones that sold were from 2020 to 2023, after I figured out what I was doing." She pulled out her laptop, showed me the auction catalog, 47 lots. Starting bid $20,000 each. Final prices ranging from $450,000 to $2.1 million. Total, $40.3 million. Who was the buyer? Multiple buyers. A Japanese collector bought 12. A London gallery bought 8. New York private collectors bought the rest. Bellingham Auction House facilitated. They took a 15% commission, $6 million. And my husband got the rest. If he was the seller, yes, approximately $34 million, before taxes. I sat down on a paint-stained tarp. He sold my paintings and told everyone he painted them. The auction listing said, "Artist wishes to remain anonymous." They used the name R. Whitmore as a pseudonym. No one thought to question it. Melissa sat across from me. "Did you sign these?" The backs, with my full name, Evelyn Marie Whitmore, and the date. The auction photos show the fronts only, and the provenance documentation lists Richard Whitmore as the owner and creator. He forged the provenance? Or he convinced the auction house that he painted them. Either way, it's fraud. She closed her laptop. "Evelyn, I need to ask you something. Did you know he was doing this?" "I found out today. From your article, you didn't sign any paperwork, consignment forms, transfer of ownership? Nothing. We're getting divorced. He moved my paintings here 2 weeks ago. I thought he was just clearing them out of the house." Melissa looked at me for a long time. "This is the biggest art fraud story I've ever seen. If what you're saying is true, then your husband stole 47 paintings, sold them for $40 million, and committed massive fraud. That's criminal, not just civil. Criminal!" My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. "Saw the article. Congrats to Dad. About time someone appreciated real art." I showed Melissa the text. Another text. This one from Richard. "Saw that you called the storage place. Stay out of my business, Evelyn. What's mine is mine. What's yours is about to be nothing." Melissa read it over my shoulder. "He's admitting to taking them. He's threatening me." Same thing. She stood up. "I need to make some calls. Don't touch anything. Don't move anything. This is evidence now." She walked outside. I could see her through the open door. Phone to her ear. Pacing. Intense conversation. I sat with my paintings. The ones Richard hadn't wanted. The early attempts. The practice pieces. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Mrs. Whitmore. This is Detective Sarah Park with the Seattle Police Department, Financial Crimes Division. I just got a very interesting call from Melissa Drake. I'd like to talk to you about some paintings." The next 3 hours were police interviews. Detective Park. Her partner, Detective Chen. Melissa stayed. Jessica drove up from Seattle. I told them everything. The gallery show, the divorce, the storage unit, the missing paintings. Detective Park took notes on a yellow legal pad. "So your husband moved 89 paintings to storage. Then he removed 47 without your knowledge or consent. Sold them at auction claiming he painted them. Collected approximately $34 million. And you had no idea until today. Do you have proof of authorship?" I showed her everything I'd shown Melissa. The notebook, the photos, the process documentation, the early paintings still in storage. "This is good, but we need more. We need something that definitively proves you painted the works that sold, not just these." She gestured at the remaining canvases. "The ones that went to Tokyo and London. The backs." I signed the backs. We'd need to see them, which means getting them from the buyers. We can try. International art fraud gets complicated, but if we can prove the signatures say Evelyn Marie Whitmore and not R. Whitmore, that's our case. Melissa spoke up. I can help. I know the curator at the London Gallery, and I've written about the Tokyo collector before. They're legitimate buyers. If they find out they bought stolen art, they'll cooperate. Detective Park nodded. Do it. And Mrs. Whitmore, I need you to not contact your husband. Don't text him. Don't call him. Don't respond to anything he sends you. Let us handle this. What about the divorce? Get a lawyer. A good one. You're going to need it. I drove home at 6 p.m. The house was dark, empty. Richard had taken most of his things 3 days ago. What remained felt like props in a stage set. Furniture, books, kitchen supplies. I sat at the kitchen table, looked at my phone, the Seattle Times article, the photos of my paintings selling for millions. One photo caption caught my eye. Lot 23, Harbor Morning, 2019, oil on canvas, 36 x 48 inches. Sold to Takeshi Yamamoto, Tokyo, for $2.1 million. The collection's crown jewel, according to Bellingham's auction director Thomas Grant. The painting I'd kept at home. The one that should be on my easel in the basement right now. The easel was empty. The painting was gone. Richard had come back, sometime in the last 3 days, taken the last piece. My phone buzzed. Richard, told you to stay out of my business. Now you're talking to police? Big mistake. You have no proof of anything. Those paintings were in our house, our shared property. I had every right to sell them. See you in court, Evelyn. You're going to lose everything. I screenshotted the text, sent it to Detective Park. Her response came immediately. He's digging his own grave. Don't respond. Let him keep talking. I sat on the basement floor where my painting used to be, the space where I'd spent 3 years creating, learning, becoming an artist. Richard thought he'd stolen my work, my money, my life, but he'd forgotten something important. Artists keep records. We document, we photograph, we catalog every step of the process. I had 3 years of evidence sitting in cloud storage, and he had no idea it existed. I pulled out my laptop, started organizing. Photos by date, paintings in progress, sketches, color studies, time-lapse videos I'd taken while painting, receipts for canvases and paint and brushes. Every painting had a story. Every piece had documentation. By midnight, I had a file. 47 folders, one for each painting that sold. Complete documentation from first sketch to final varnish. I sent it to Detective Park. Copied Melissa Drake. Melissa called 10 minutes later. Evelyn, this is incredible. You have dated photos showing the progression of every single piece. I documented everything. I was teaching myself. I wanted to track my improvement. This isn't just evidence. This is ironclad proof. You have photos of these paintings half-finished on your easel, time-stamped, GPS tagged, metadata intact. Will it be enough? It's more than enough. Richard Whitmore just made the biggest mistake of his life. I hung up, looked at my basement studio, empty easel, bare walls, paint-stained floor. Richard thought he'd destroyed me at that gallery opening, humiliated me in front of 17 witnesses, but he'd actually done something else. He'd pissed off an artist with nothing left to lose, and now I had 40 million reasons to fight back. The email arrived from Tokyo at 4 in the morning. I was awake. I'd been awake since midnight, organizing documentation, building timelines, preparing for war. The subject line was in Japanese. Google Translate told me it said, Authentication Inquiry, Urgent. Takeshi Yamamoto, the collector who'd bought Harbor Morning for $2.1 million. Melissa had contacted him 2 days ago. The email was in English. I am writing regarding 12 paintings I purchased from Bellingham Auction House. Drake has informed me that you claim authorship of these works. I have examined the pieces closely. Each painting is signed on the reverse with Evelyn Marie Whitmore and dated between 2020-2023. This contradicts the provenance documentation provided by the auction house, which lists R. Whitmore as artist. I have contacted Bellingham. They claim R. Whitmore submitted documentation proving ownership and authorship. I have requested copies. If you are the true artist, this is fraud. I do not collect fraudulent work. Please send all documentation proving authorship to my legal team. Contact information below. Respectfully, Takeshi Yamamoto. Attached photographs. High resolution. The backs of 12 paintings. My signature on everyone. My handwriting. My dates. I sat at my kitchen table crying. Not sad tears. Relief tears. Proof tears. I forwarded the email to Detective Park, to Melissa, to the lawyer I'd hired 3 days ago, Catherine Walsh, divorce attorney turned art fraud specialist. Catherine called at 7 a.m. Evelyn, we need to meet. Can you be at my office in an hour? Her office was downtown, 32nd floor, view of Elliott Bay, the water I'd painted 100 times. Catherine sat behind a glass desk covered in documents, blonde, 55, expensive suit. She looked like someone who won. Takeshi Yamamoto's email is a gift, but we need to move fast. I've been digging into the Bellingham auction, the documentation Richard submitted. It's all fake. She spread papers across the desk, bills of sale, authenticity certificates, artist statements. Every document said, R. Whitmore, artist. Every signature was Richard's. He forged everything, I said. Yes, but here's the interesting part. Look at this. She pulled out a form, Certificate of Provenance, filed with Bellingham on January 12th, 3 days before he moved the paintings from your basement to storage, 3 days before your gallery opening. He planned this, I said, before the divorce. Before humiliating me, he'd already decided to steal my work. It's worse than that. Catherine opened her laptop, showed me a spreadsheet. I subpoenaed your joint bank records. Look at this transaction, December 15th. Wire transfer, $50,000 from your joint account to Bellingham Auction House. Listing fee for a major consignment, December 15th, a month before the gallery show. 6 weeks before he served me divorce papers. He paid them with our money to sell my paintings and claim credit. Correct. And look at this, another document. This is the divorce settlement you signed, the one Richard drew up. I'd read it once, signed it in Marcus's office while 17 people pretended to look at my work. Catherine highlighted a section. Paragraph 12. All artwork created during the marriage shall be considered marital property. Upon dissolution, artwork shall be divided equitably, with preference given to the party who demonstrates primary contribution to creation. I don't understand. Richard wrote into the divorce that artwork is marital property, which means even if you painted them, he can claim half. And primary contribution is deliberately vague. He can argue he funded your materials, your studio space, your education. Therefore, he contributed primarily. It's also unenforceable in this case, because he committed fraud before the divorce was even filed. He sold the paintings while you were still married, without your knowledge or consent. That's not marital property division, that's theft. I looked out the window. Elliott Bay. Ferries crossing. The water changing color in the morning light. I'd painted that view 60 times. Richard had sold 12 of those paintings. For $8.4 million total. What else did you find? I asked. Catherine's expression changed, got harder. You're not going to like this. She pulled out more papers, emails, printed from Richard's law firm account. Catherine had subpoenaed them. The first email was from Richard to someone named Melissa Drake. Dated November 3rd, 3 months before my gallery show. Marcus confirmed the gallery show for January 19th. Evelyn has no idea I'm the primary investor. She thinks Marcus is doing her a favor. Perfect setup. I'll serve divorce papers opening night. Make sure you're there. I want her to see us together. Break her completely before we move the paintings. The art dealer. Richard's mistress. Not Melissa Drake, the art critic. Different person. Same name. Catherine saw my face. Keep reading. Second email. Richard to Melissa. December 2nd. Bellingham confirmed. Listing fee paid. We go live January 20th. Day after the divorce. Evelyn will be too devastated to notice. By the time she figures it out, the paintings will be in Tokyo and London. Untouchable. Your 20% comes to 6.8 Mouters. Plus, my gratitude. See you tonight. Third email. Melissa Drake to Richard. December 10th. Thomas Grant at Bellingham called. He's worried about provenance documentation. Wants to verify you're the artist. I told him you're extremely private. Sent him the fake bio we wrote. He bought it. Kevin called. He's on board, wants his cut. I told him $2. He's fine with it. Can't wait to get rid of the old bag and start our real life. I read the email 3 times. Kevin knew, I said. Kevin was part of it. He gets $2 million for playing along, laughing at your work, supporting Richard's story that you're a dilettante with no talent. Catherine pulled out another document. Bank records. Look, February 2nd. Wire transfer from Richard's new personal account to Kevin Whitmore. $2,000. Payment for services rendered. I sat back, looked at the ceiling, the recessed lights, the acoustic tiles. My husband had planned this for months. Stolen my work, forged documents, paid off my son, partnered with his mistress, humiliated me in front of a gallery full of witnesses, all to steal $40 million. There's more, Catherine said quietly. How can there be more? She pulled out a final document. Medical records. My medical records. I subpoenaed these from your primary care physician. Look at your prescription history. Last year, September through November, I scanned the list. Blood pressure medication, cholesterol, vitamin D, alprazolam, 0.5 mg, prescribed by Dr. Richard Whitmore. My husband. Richard prescribed me medication? He's not licensed to practice medicine, but he has prescribing authority through the legal clinic he volunteers at. He wrote you a prescription for anti-anxiety medication. You filled it 4 times. September, October, November, December. I remembered. The pills. Richard had said they'd help with my stress, with the gallery show anxiety. I'd taken them every night before bed. What was wrong with them? Nothing. They're legitimate alprazolam. But look at the dosage. He started you at 0.5 mg, then increased to 1 mg, then 2 mg. By December, you were taking 2 mg every night. So that's a heavy dose. Enough to cause significant memory impairment, confusion, difficulty concentrating. Catherine looked at me. Evelyn, you signed divorce papers after taking 2 mg of alprazolam for 3 months. You signed them in an emotional state, in front of hostile witnesses, after being publicly humiliated. You're saying I wasn't competent to sign. I'm saying Richard drugged you for months, then orchestrated a scenario designed to maximize your emotional distress, then presented you with legal documents you couldn't properly evaluate. That divorce isn't valid. It's coercion. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. Mom, we need to talk. Dad says you're making trouble. Don't do this. You'll regret it. Don't respond, she said. He's trying to intimidate you. Another text. Richard this time. Last warning, drop whatever you're planning with that lawyer. You have no proof of anything. You signed the divorce. The paintings are mine. If you pursue this, I will destroy you. I'll have you declared mentally incompetent. I'll take the house. Everything. Walk away now. Catherine read it. Smiled. He's panicking. Because he's making threats he can't execute. The incompetency thing? We have proof he drugged you. Any judge will see through that. The house? It's in your name too. He can't take it. These threats are desperate. What about the paintings? Yamamoto's photos prove you painted them. Your documentation proves the timeline. Richard's emails prove fraud. His bank records prove conspiracy. We have him. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Evelyn Whitmore? A man's voice. British accent. This is Henry Ashford. I'm the director of the Ashford Gallery in London. Melissa Drake put me in touch. I purchased 8 of your paintings from Bellingham. I'd like to verify their provenance. They're mine. I painted them. I've examined the signatures. They say Evelyn Marie Whitmore. The auction documentation says R. Whitmore. There's a discrepancy. Whitmore is my husband. He stole the paintings and sold them claiming he painted them. Silence. Then, that's quite serious. I have documentation, proof of authorship, process photos, everything. I'd like to see it. I'm flying to Seattle tomorrow. Can we meet? I looked at Catherine. She nodded. Yes, tomorrow. My lawyer's office. Henry Ashford arrived the next afternoon with 2 assistants. Expensive suit. Very British. Very serious. I showed him everything. The notebooks. The photos. The time-lapse videos. The sketches. 47 folders of documentation. He examined it all, made notes, compared photos to the paintings he'd bought. After 2 hours, he sat back. Whitmore, I'm satisfied that you are the artist. These works are clearly yours. I've been in this business 30 years. I can see the progression, the development of technique, the consistent style. What does this mean? It means I purchased stolen property, which means I have grounds to sue Bellingham Auction House for fraud and to sue Richard Whitmore for my $6.2 million, plus damages. Catherine smiled. Ashford, I think we can help each other. They talked for an hour. Legal strategy, evidence sharing, coordinated lawsuits. When Ashford left, Catherine turned to me. Evelyn, we're not just fighting a divorce case anymore. We're fighting a federal fraud case. Yamamoto and Ashford are both filing lawsuits. That's 2 international collectors suing Richard. Detective Park is building a criminal case. And we're filing for the divorce to be invalidated based on coercion. We already have. Richard just doesn't know it yet. I drove home at 5 p.m. The house was dark, empty, but it felt different now. Richard thought he'd taken everything. My paintings, my money, my dignity, my son. But he'd forgotten one thing. And artists know how to see what other people miss. Richard had spent months planning his fraud, creating documents, forging signatures, coordinating with Melissa and Kevin in Bellingham. But he'd never looked at my paintings, never studied them, never understood what they showed. Every painting had details, dates, locations, times of day, weather conditions, specific moments I'd witnessed and captured. Harbor Morning 2019 showed the Bainbridge Ferry at 6:47 a.m. on July 3, 2019. I knew because I'd photographed the scene that morning. I had the original photo, time-stamped, GPS tagged. Richard couldn't recreate that. He'd never been on the waterfront at 6:47 a.m. He didn't know what the light looked like, what the water looked like. What details made that specific morning different from every other morning? He'd stolen my paintings. But he couldn't steal my eye, my memory, my knowledge of every brushstroke. That was going to destroy him. My phone buzzed. Melissa Drake, the art critic, not the mistress, the one helping me. Evelyn, the Seattle Times wants to run a story. Your story. Art fraud. Stolen work. International scandal. Are you ready to go public? I looked at my empty living room. The walls where my paintings used to hang. Richard had humiliated me in front of 17 people. Time to return the favor in front of 17 million. The Seattle Times article went live on a Thursday morning. Front page of the arts section. Online edition featured it with a banner. Breaking. Local artist claims 40 Mallertzwer's auction was fraud. By noon, it had 50,000 shares. By 3 p.m., CNN had called. I sat in Catherine's office watching my phone explode. Messages, calls, emails, interview requests from NPR, BBC, The New York Times, The Washington Post, Good Morning America. Melissa Drake had written the article. Every word was documented, every claim backed by evidence. Photographs of my paintings in progress. Screenshots of Richard's emails, bank records, Yamamoto's authentication photos. The headline, Seattle Teachers Stolen Art, How a Divorce Became a $40 million Fraud Case. Catherine put her phone on speaker. A call from Thomas Grant, director of Bellingham Auction House. Walsh, we need to talk. Immediately. Your client's allegations are defamatory. Whitmore provided complete provenance documentation. We conducted our due diligence. This is a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, it's fraud. You sold 47 stolen paintings. My client has proof. We want to settle. Name a price. Catherine looked at me. I shook my head. No settlement, Catherine said. We're going to trial. Walsh, be reasonable. This will destroy our reputation. We're willing to pay. You took a $6 million commission on stolen art. You're facing lawsuits from Yamamoto and Ashford. You're facing a criminal investigation. No amount of money makes this go away quietly. Silence. Then, we'll cooperate with the investigation. Full transparency. We were deceived by Mr. Whitmore. Then you'll testify to that. In court. Under oath. Catherine hung up. Smiled at me. Bellingham just flipped. They're throwing Richard under the bus. My phone rang. Detective Park. Evelyn. We have enough for an arrest warrant. Fraud, grand theft, forgery. The prosecutor wants to move forward. Are you ready for this? What happens when you arrest him? He'll be processed, arraigned. Bail will be set. Given the amount involved in flight risk, we'll argue for high bail. $500,000 at least. Then yes, I'm ready. We're picking him up tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. I wanted you to know. I hung up, looked at Catherine. They're arresting him tomorrow. Good, that accelerates everything. Once he's arrested, Kevin and Melissa Drake will panic. Especially Kevin. He's the weak link. He's also a co-conspirator who took $2 million to help steal from you. Catherine pulled out a file. I've been investigating him. Kevin Whitmore, 29, marketing consultant, makes $140,000 a year, lives in a condo in Capitol Hill he couldn't afford 3 months ago. Guess how much he paid for it? $1.8 million, cash, on February 10th. 8 days after Richard wired him $2 million. I closed my eyes. He bought a condo with stolen money, which makes it traceable, which makes it recoverable, which gives him every reason to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for reduced charges. You want him to testify against Richard. I want him to tell the truth, under oath, in front of a jury, about how his father orchestrated this fraud. If Kevin refuses, he's looking at felony conspiracy charges. If he cooperates, maybe he gets probation and restitution. He's my son, Catherine. He helped his father steal $40 million from you. He laughed at your paintings in front of witnesses. He took $2 million and bought a condo. What kind of son does that? The kind I'd raised. The kind I'd driven to art classes every Saturday. The kind who'd wanted to be an illustrator before Richard convinced him that art was a waste of time. My phone buzzed. Kevin. Mom, we need to talk. In person. Today. Please. Don't meet him alone, she said. If you're going to talk to him, do it here. In my office. On record. I texted back. Catherine Walsh's office. 4 p.m. Bring your lawyer. Kevin arrived at 3:55 p.m. No lawyer. He looked terrible. Unshaven. Dark circles under his eyes. A wrinkled shirt. He sat across from me in Catherine's conference room. She sat at the head of the table, recording equipment visible. This conversation is being recorded, Catherine said. For your protection and Ms. Whitmore's. Do you consent? Kevin nodded. Yeah, fine. Say it out loud, please. I consent to being recorded. Catherine pressed record. February 28, 2024, 3:57 p.m. Present are Evelyn Whitmore, Kevin Whitmore, and Catherine Walsh, attorney for Ms. Whitmore. Whitmore, you requested this meeting. Go ahead. Kevin looked at me. Mom, I'm sorry. For what, specifically? For everything. The gallery show. Laughing at your work. Taking the money. I was wrong. How much money did you take? Money he got from selling my paintings. Paintings you knew were mine. Kevin's voice cracked. Yes. Catherine leaned forward. Kevin, when did you first know about your father's plan to sell Evelyn's paintings? November. Early November. He told me he'd found a buyer for some of Mom's work. Said he was selling them to fund the divorce. I thought it was legal. Part of dividing assets. Did you know the paintings were worth $40 million? Not at first. He said maybe $100,000 total. Enough to cover legal fees. When did you learn the real amount? January. After the auction. He called me. Said the sale went better than expected. $40 million. I couldn't believe it. What did he offer you? $2 million. If I backed up his story. Said Mom's paintings were amateur work. That she had no real talent. That she was delusional about her abilities. Why did you agree? Kevin put his head in his hands. Because I'm an idiot. Because $2 million seemed like enough money to set me up for life. Because Dad said Mom would never find out. The paintings were gone. Sold internationally. Untraceable. But they weren't untraceable. Mom documented everything. I didn't know that. Dad didn't know that. We thought she just painted for fun. We didn't know she was keeping records like a professional artist. I spoke up. You laughed at my work, Kevin. At the gallery. In front of people. You called it sad. You said it was like hotel art. I know, Mom. I was playing a role. Dad told me to be dismissive. Make it convincing. I'm sorry. You took $2 million. I did. And I spent most of it on a condo I can't afford to keep. The HOA fees alone are $4,000 a month. I'm an idiot. Catherine pulled out a document. Kevin, the police are arresting your father tomorrow morning. You're named in the investigation as a co-conspirator. If you don't cooperate, you'll be charged with felony fraud. Do you understand that? The prosecutor is willing to offer a deal. You testify truthfully about your father's actions. You return the $2 million. You plead to a reduced charge with probation and community service. No jail time. What's the reduced charge? Accessory after the fact. Misdemeanor. 1 year probation. 200 hours community service. Clean record after completion. And if I don't take the deal? Felony conspiracy to commit fraud. 3 to 7 years in prison. Forfeiture of all assets purchased with stolen money. Permanent criminal record. Kevin looked at me. What do you want me to do, Mom? I want you to tell the truth. I will. I'll testify. I'll give back the money. I'll do whatever you want. Just please believe me when I say I'm sorry. I looked at my son, 29 years old. Still a child in so many ways. Stupid, greedy, weak. The condo, I said. How much is it worth now? I paid $1.8 million. It's probably worth $1.9 million, or maybe $2 million. Sell it. Give the proceeds to Catherine. That's your restitution. And you testify against your father. Everything. The planning, the emails, the money, all of it. After this is over, I don't want to see you for a very long time. Maybe ever. I need to decide if I can forgive you. Right now, I can't. Kevin started crying. I understand. Catherine escorted him out, came back with a legal pad covered in notes. That was productive. Kevin just gave us everything we need. Timeline, Richard's statements, proof of the payment. He'll be a strong witness. He's my son and he betrayed me for money. He's also 29 and stupid. His father manipulated him. That doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. Catherine sat down. Evelyn, we're in good shape. Bellingham is cooperating. Kevin is cooperating. Yamamoto and Ashford are filing lawsuits. Detective Park has an arrest warrant. Richard's going down. What about Melissa Drake? The mistress? Harder. She's not a U.S. citizen. She's Canadian. Been living here on a work visa. If she's smart, she'll flee back to Vancouver before the arrest. But she's also facing charges. If she runs, she can't come back without being arrested. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Evelyn Whitmore? A woman's voice. Cold. Angry. This is Melissa Drake. The mistress. Not the art critic. I want you to back off. This article. The investigation. All of it. You're destroying Richard's life. He destroyed mine first. You were never an artist, Evelyn. You were a hobby painter. Richard saw potential in your work and marketed it properly. You should be thanking him. He stole my paintings and sold them as his. He elevated them. Without him, they'd still be in your basement. Worthless. They were worth $40 million. Because Richard knew how to sell them. He created the narrative. The mysterious reclusive artist. The Pacific Northwest genius. That was all him. You just painted pretty pictures. Catherine was recording this. I put the phone on speaker. Melissa, did you help Richard forge the provenance documents? I helped him present the work appropriately. There's nothing illegal about that. Did you know he was married? That the paintings belonged to his wife? Richard told me you were separated, that the paintings were his property. Part of the marital assets he was entitled to sell. When did you meet Richard? October. At a gallery opening. We connected. Did you know he planned to divorce me? He told me his marriage was over, that you were a burden, that he was ready to start fresh. Yes, with me. We're in love, Evelyn. Something you clearly know nothing about. How much money did he pay you? Melissa, how much was your cut? 20%? That's $6.8 million. Did you get paid yet? That's none of your business. It's absolutely my business. You conspired with my husband to steal my artwork and sell it for millions. You're an accessory to fraud. The police are very interested in talking to you. I'm leaving. Tonight. You'll never find me. You're fleeing the country? I'm going home. To Vancouver, where you can't touch me. Running makes you look guilty. I don't care how I look. I care about not going to prison for something Richard did. She hung up. Catherine stopped recording. She just confessed to conspiracy and announced her intent to flee. I'm sending this to Detective Park right now. She forwarded the audio. Detective Park called 2 minutes later. Evelyn, that recording is gold. I'm contacting Vancouver police. If Melissa Drake crosses the border, we'll have Canadian authorities pick her up. She can fight extradition, but it won't work. We have her dead to rights. That evening, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea and my laptop. The Seattle Times article had 200,000 shares. The comments section was flooded. This is why you document your work. Her husband is a monster. Sue him into oblivion. I hope she gets every penny. CNN wanted me on air tomorrow morning. Good Morning America wanted me Monday. NPR wanted an hour-long interview. Catherine had advised me to wait until after Richard's arrest. Let him get processed. Let him sit in jail overnight. Then go public with the full story. My phone rang. Richard. I almost didn't answer. But I wanted to hear his voice. Wanted to know if he understood what was coming. I know what you're doing. The article. The lawyers. The investigation. It won't work. It's already working. Bellingham flipped. Kevin flipped. Melissa's fleeing to Canada. You're going to jail tomorrow morning. Silence. Then, Kevin talked to you? He confessed everything. The $2 million, the condo, your plan, all of it. He's weak, just like you. I should have known he'd break. You used him, Richard. You used both of us. For $40 million. I took what was mine. Those paintings existed because I funded your hobby. I paid for your supplies, your classes, your studio space. Without me, you'd have nothing. Without me, you'd have no paintings to steal. They were community property. I had every right to sell them. You forged documents. You lied to the auction house. You committed fraud. That's not community property. That's a crime. I already did. Yamamoto has photos of my signatures on the backs of the paintings. I have process photos showing me creating every piece. I have emails showing you planned this with Melissa and Kevin. I have bank records showing you paid off our son with stolen money. I have recordings of Melissa admitting to conspiracy. It's over, Richard. More silence. Then, I'll take a deal. Plead to something minor. Pay a fine. I'm a respected attorney. They won't send me to prison. You stole $40 million. You're going to prison for a very long time. Evelyn, please. We can work this out. I'll give you half. $20 million. We'll split it. You drop the charges. We both walk away. $30 million. You can have $30 million. Keep the house. Keep everything. Just drop the charges. I want all of it. Every dollar. Plus damages. Plus my reputation back. Plus the satisfaction of watching you get arrested. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not documenting my work sooner. If I had, you never would have tried this. I sat in my kitchen drinking tea, looking at my empty walls where my paintings used to hang. Tomorrow, Richard would be arrested, charged, processed. Bail would be set at $500,000, and I would be on CNN telling the world exactly what he'd done. 40 million reasons to tell the truth, and one very personal reason to watch him fall. Detective Park called at 6:47 a.m. I was already awake, coffee made, dressed, watching the sunrise through my kitchen window. It's done. Richard Whitmore is in custody. We picked him up at his apartment in Belltown. He tried to run, made it to the parking garage before we caught him. Is he in jail now? Processing. Arraignment is scheduled for 2 p.m. Judge Morrison. She doesn't mess around with fraud cases. Bail will be high. I hung up, poured my coffee, looked at my phone. 37 interview requests. MSNBC, Fox News, The Guardian, Le Monde. Every major outlet in the world wanted the story. Catherine had scheduled CNN for 9 a.m. We'd do it live from her office. Tell everything. At 8:30 a.m., I sat in a chair across from a camera. Makeup artist touched up my face. Producer counted down. The anchor was a woman named Sarah Chen. Professional, sympathetic. Evelyn Whitmore, thank you for joining us. Your story has captivated millions. Can you tell us what happened? I told her. The gallery opening. the divorce papers, the humiliation, the discovery of the $40 million auction, the fraud, the conspiracy, Richard's arrest this morning. Sarah's eyes went wide. Your own husband stole your artwork and sold it for $40 million? Yes, with help from his mistress and my son. Your son was involved? He took $2 million to support Richard's story, to laugh at my work in public, to make me seem like a delusional hobbyist. How does that feel? I paused, considered the question. It feels like betrayal, but it also feels like clarity. I spent 34 years married to a man who never saw me, never valued me, never believed I was capable of anything significant. Now the whole world can see what he couldn't. Your paintings sold for millions. The critics are calling them masterpieces. How does that feel? Vindicating. I spent 3 years teaching myself to paint, working every morning in my basement, documenting every step because I wanted to track my progress. I never imagined those paintings would be worth millions. I just wanted to be good, to create something beautiful. And now your husband is facing federal fraud charges. The interview went viral immediately. 2 million views in the first hour. By noon, 5 million. At 2 p.m., I sat in Judge Morrison's courtroom, back row, Catherine beside me. Detective Park 2 rows ahead. Richard was brought in wearing orange. No tie, no Rolex, handcuffed. He looked smaller, older, defeated. He saw me. Our eyes met. I didn't look away. The prosecutor stood. Amanda Reeves, federal prosecutor, 38. Reputation for winning. Your Honor, the United States is charging Richard Whitmore with 47 counts of wire fraud, 23 counts of forgery, and 1 count of conspiracy to commit fraud. The total value of stolen property exceeds $40 million. We're requesting bail be set at $2 million given flight risk and the severity of charges. Richard's attorney stood. Public defender, overworked, underprepared. Your Honor, Mr. Whitmore is a respected attorney with deep ties to the Seattle community. He's not a flight risk. We request reasonable bail. Judge Morrison looked at the file. Looked at Richard. Whitmore, you're accused of stealing 47 paintings from your wife, forging provenance documents, selling those paintings at auction for $40 million, and conspiring with at least 2 other individuals to commit fraud. Is that accurate? Your Honor, those paintings were marital property. I asked if the charges were accurate as stated. Not for your defense. Richard's attorney whispered to him. Richard nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Those are the charges. The evidence appears substantial. Multiple witnesses, documentation, international victims. This is not a simple marital dispute. This is large-scale fraud. She looked at the prosecutor. Bail is set at $1 million, cash or bond. Next court date is March 28th. Whitmore, you are not to contact the victim, Evelyn Whitmore, or any witnesses in this case. Do you understand? They led him away. He looked back at me once. I gave him nothing. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones. Questions shouted from every direction. Catherine stepped forward. Whitmore will make a brief statement. No questions at this time. I looked at the cameras, thought about what to say. My name is Evelyn Whitmore. I'm 58 years old. I spent 3 years learning to paint, creating art, documenting my process. I never imagined my work would be worth millions. I just wanted to be good at something I loved. My husband stole that from me. He took 47 paintings without my knowledge. He forged documents. He sold my work, claiming he created it. He collected $40 million. He humiliated me. He betrayed me. But he failed to destroy me. Because art isn't about money. It's about truth. And the truth is in every brushstroke, every color choice, every composition. I documented everything. I can prove every painting is mine. Richard Whitmore thought he could steal my life's work and get away with it. He was wrong. Justice is slow, but it's coming. To every artist watching this, document your work. Photograph every step. Keep records. Sign your pieces. Protect yourself. Because people you trust will betray you if there's enough money involved. The trial date was set for June 15th, 3 months away. In those 3 months, everything changed. Takeshi Yamamoto flew to Seattle, brought all 12 paintings he'd purchased, authenticated them personally with me, offered them back. Whitmore, I bought these in good faith, but they were stolen. They belong to you. You paid $14.2 million for them. I paid for stolen property. I want no part of fraud. Take them. They're yours. Henry Ashford did the same. Flew from London with his 8 paintings, $6.2 million worth. I'm suing Bellingham and Richard Whitmore for my money, but these belong to you. I won't profit from theft. Within 2 weeks, I had 38 of the 47 paintings back. The remaining 9 were tied up in legal proceedings. Buyers fighting over ownership, lawsuits pending. Catherine filed a civil suit against Richard. $40 million in stolen proceeds plus $25 million in damages. Loss of reputation, emotional distress, punitive damages. She also filed to have the divorce invalidated. Coercion, drugging, emotional manipulation. Kevin sold his condo, gave Catherine $195 million, signed a cooperation agreement with prosecutors. Melissa Drake was arrested trying to cross into Canada, extradited back to Seattle, charged with conspiracy and fraud. Bail set at $500,000. She couldn't make it. Both sat in jail waiting for trial. I was painting again, in my basement, the same space I'd used for 3 years. But now galleries were calling. Real galleries, offering shows, representation. One gallery in New York offered me a solo exhibition. Whitmore, your story is remarkable, but your art is even more remarkable. We'd be honored to represent you. The trial began on June 15th, federal courthouse in downtown Seattle. Judge Morrison presiding. The prosecution called witnesses: Detective Park, Catherine Walsh, Takeshi Yamamoto, Henry Ashford, Thomas Grant from Bellingham Auction House. Then they called Kevin. My son walked to the witness stand wearing a suit. He looked thin, tired, older than 29. Amanda Reeves questioned him. Kevin Whitmore, what is your relationship to the defendant? And to Evelyn Whitmore? In November 2023, did your father approach you with a proposition? Yes. He told me he was selling some of my mother's paintings. He asked me to support his story that they were his work. What did he offer you in exchange? $2 million. Murmurs in the courtroom. Judge Morrison gavelled for silence. Yes, I did. I was greedy and stupid. I accepted. What did your father tell you about the paintings? He said they were marital property, that he had the right to sell them, that my mother would never know, that the paintings were going to international buyers and would disappear. Did you know your mother had created those paintings? Yes. I'd watched her paint for 3 years. I knew they were hers. But you took the money anyway. Kevin's voice broke. Yes, I took the money, and I've regretted it every day since. Why are you testifying today? Because my mother deserves justice, and because what my father did was wrong. I was wrong to help him. I'm trying to make it right. Richard's attorney cross-examined, tried to discredit Kevin, called him a liar, a traitor, a disloyal son. Kevin didn't break. I'm disloyal because I told the truth? My father stole $40 million from my mother. I helped him. That makes me guilty too. But at least I'm admitting it. The prosecution called Melissa Drake. She'd taken a plea deal. Testify against Richard. Serve 3 years instead of 15. She told everything: the affair, the planning, the forged documents, the split of money. Richard's confession that he'd been planning this for months. Did Richard Whitmore tell you he painted these works? He told me his wife painted them, but he said she was a nobody. That she'd never be able to prove authorship. That we could sell them as his, and no one would question it. Did you believe that? I wanted to believe it. There was a lot of money involved. I convinced myself it would work. Every day, I destroyed my career, my reputation, my freedom, for money that's gone. It was the worst decision of my life. Then the prosecution called me. I walked to the stand, swore to tell the truth, sat down. Amanda Reeves smiled gently. Whitmore, Can you tell the jury about your paintings? I told them everything. How I'd started painting after retiring. How I'd taught myself. How I'd worked every morning for 3 years. How I'd documented every step. Why did you document your process? I was learning. I wanted to track my progress, see how I improved. I never imagined it would be evidence in a fraud trial. Did your husband ever paint? Never. Not once in 34 years. Did he ever show interest in art? He called it a waste of time, a hobby for people with nothing better to do. Yet he sold 47 of your paintings for $40 million, claiming he created them. How did that make you feel? Betrayed, humiliated, furious, but also determined. Because I had proof. I had documentation. I had the truth. Richard's attorney cross-examined, tried to shake me, asked if Richard had funded my supplies, my classes, my studio space. He paid for materials, yes, but I painted the pictures. I mixed the colors. I composed the scenes. I created the art. Buying canvas doesn't make you an artist any more than buying a piano makes you a musician. But the paintings were created during your marriage. Doesn't that make them marital property? Marital property is divided in divorce. It's not stolen and sold without the other person's knowledge. Richard didn't divide assets. He committed fraud. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the foreman stood. In the case of United States v. Richard Whitmore, on the charge of wire fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of forgery, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty. Richard dropped his head. His attorney put a hand on his shoulder. Judge Morrison set sentencing for August 1st. Outside, Catherine hugged me. You won. How long will he get? With 47 counts and $40 million? 10 to 20 years. Probably 15 with good behavior. 15 years. Richard would be 74 when he got out. If he got out. The civil trial was faster. Judge awarded me $40 million in restitution plus $18 million in damages. Total, $58 million. Richard had assets worth approximately $12 million. House, retirement accounts, investment properties. The court seized all of it. The remaining $46 million would come from Bellingham Auction House's insurance, from Melissa Drake's assets, from anyone who'd profited from the fraud. It would take years to collect, but I'd get it, eventually. On August 1st, Judge Morrison sentenced Richard to 18 years in federal prison. Melissa got 4 years. Kevin got probation, community service, and a permanent fraud conviction on his record. I sat in the courtroom watching Richard led away in handcuffs. He looked at me one last time, mouthed something. I think it was, "I'm sorry." Outside, Jessica waited for me. How do you feel? Tired? Relieved? Free? What are you going to do now? I thought about it. The New York Gallery show scheduled for October. The 38 paintings returned to me. The 9 still being recovered. The money slowly being collected. I'm going to paint, I said. I'm going to create. I'm going to be the artist I was meant to be, without anyone stealing from me, without anyone telling me I'm not good enough. Just me and the canvas and the truth. For the first time in 34 years, I was free. The New York Gallery show opened on October 12th. The Ashford Gallery on the Upper East Side. White walls. Perfect lighting. 200 invited guests. I stood in the center of the room wearing a dress I'd bought specifically for this. Navy blue. Simple. Elegant. The kind of thing an artist wears to her first major solo exhibition. 38 paintings hung on the walls. Every piece returned to me by Yamamoto and Ashford. Plus 9 new works I'd created over the summer. 47 total. The same number Richard had stolen. The gallery director, Marcus Ashford, Henry's brother, gave a speech. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present Evelyn Whitmore. Her story has captivated the world. But tonight is not about fraud or betrayal. Tonight is about art, about an artist who spent 3 years teaching herself to see, to capture light and color and moment, to create beauty despite everything trying to stop her. These paintings were stolen, sold, scattered across the world. And now they're home, together for the first time. A complete collection by one of the most remarkable emerging artists of our generation, Evelyn Whitmore. Everyone, Applause filled the gallery. I stepped forward, looked at the crowd. Collectors, critics, journalists, artists, people who'd followed my story, people who'd never heard of me until the trial. "Thank you for coming," I said. A year ago, I was standing in a small gallery in Seattle with 17 people who didn't want to be there. My husband served me divorce papers in front of those 17 witnesses. My son laughed at my work. I went home that night thinking I'd failed. I didn't fail. I just hadn't found my audience yet. These paintings represent 3 years of learning, of waking up at 6 a.m. and painting until noon, of studying light and color and composition, of documenting every step because I wanted to track my progress. I never imagined they'd be worth millions. I never imagined they'd be stolen. I never imagined I'd spend 6 months fighting to prove they were mine. But here we are, 47 paintings, returned, restored, ready to be seen by people who actually want to look at them. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing my work. And thank you for believing that art matters. Even when the artist is a 58-year-old retired teacher who learned to paint in her basement. The applause was louder this time. People approached, shook my hand, asked questions about technique, about process, about what came next. A woman in her 70s touched my arm. "I started painting last year, after my husband died. Your story inspired me to keep going, thank you." A man in his 40s introduced himself as a collector from Chicago. "I'd like to purchase Evening Fairy if it's available. The Purple Sunset. It's extraordinary. It's not for sale yet, but after the exhibition closes, yes, it will be." I looked at Marcus. He smiled. "We're listing that piece at $1.8 million. The man didn't flinch. "I'll take it. Please hold it for me." By the end of the night, 12 paintings had sold. Total value, $18.6 million. Marcus handed me a glass of champagne. "Evelyn, you're a sensation. We've had inquiries from museums. The MoMA wants 3 pieces for their permanent collection. The Smithsonian wants to do a retrospective next year. I've only been painting for 3 years, and you've created a body of work that most artists don't achieve in 30. Your story is part of it, but the art stands alone. That's what matters." I stayed until midnight, talking, answering questions, watching people examine my work with genuine interest. At 1 a.m., I took a cab back to my hotel, a small boutique place in Greenwich Village. I sat on the bed looking at my phone. Messages from Catherine, from Jessica, from Detective Park, from Yamamoto, from collectors I'd never met. "Mom, I saw the article about your show. I'm proud of you. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I needed to say it. You deserved this. I'm sorry I tried to take it from you." I stared at the message for 5 minutes, then deleted it without responding. I wasn't ready to forgive Kevin. Maybe I never would be. He'd made his choice, taken the money, laughed at my work, betrayed me. The fact that he regretted it now didn't erase what he'd done. I flew back to Seattle the next morning. The house felt different, lighter. I'd redecorated over the summer. New furniture, new paint, new curtains, no traces of Richard. The divorce had been finalized in July. The house was mine. The car was mine. The retirement accounts we'd built together had been split, with my portion protected from Richard's restitution obligations. Catherine had made sure of that. He can't touch money that was legally yours before the fraud. Only his stolen proceeds are subject to seizure. I'd ended up with approximately $4.2 million in legitimate assets. The house, my teacher's pension, our joint savings split 50-50. The stolen $40 million was being recovered slowly. Bellingham's insurance had paid $22 million. Melissa Drake's seized assets added another $800,000. Richard's properties and accounts added $12 million. Total recovered, $34.8 million. The remaining $5.2 million would come eventually. Lawsuits, settlements, asset seizures. Catherine was handling it. I didn't need the money anyway. The gallery sales had made me financially independent. 12 paintings at an average of $1.5 million each. Commission to the gallery was 40%. I'd netted $16 million. I spent November painting, new works, different subjects, not just Seattle landscapes. I branched out. Portraits, still lifes, abstract compositions. I was experimenting, learning, growing. In December, the Smithsonian called, Director of American Art, Whitmore, we'd like to acquire 3 of your pieces for our permanent collection: Harbor Morning, Evening Ferry, and Market Rain. We're prepared to offer $6.5 million for the 3. I sold them. The paintings that had started everything. The crown jewels of Richard's stolen collection. Now they'd hang in Washington, D.C., forever, with my name on the plaques. Evelyn Marie Whitmore, American artist, B. 1965, Pacific Northwest landscape painter, self-taught, known for luminous depictions of Seattle and Puget Sound. In January, Catherine called with news. Richard's appealing his sentence. Claims the trial was unfair, that the jury was biased, that his attorney was incompetent. He was convicted on 47 counts with overwhelming evidence. The appeal is a formality. He's serving 18 years. Federal prison in Oregon. Medium security. He'll be eligible for parole in 12 years if he behaves. 12 years. Richard would be 71. I'd be 70. Has he tried to contact you? The no-contact order is still in effect. If he reaches out, he violates his probation conditions. I hung up, went back to painting. In February, Kevin sent another message. Mom, I sold an article to the New Yorker about what I did, about being part of the fraud, about betraying you. They're publishing it next month. I wanted you to know. I'm not excusing what I did, but I'm trying to own it publicly. I'm sorry. I read the message 3 times, then responded. The article came out in March, 8,000 words. Brutally honest. Kevin detailed everything. The $2 million, the condo, the agreement to mock my work, his regret, his guilt. The final paragraph stayed with me. I betrayed my mother for money. I laughed at her art in public. I helped my father steal from her. I can't undo any of that. I can't earn her forgiveness. All I can do is tell the truth. My mother is an artist, a real one. Her work hangs in the Smithsonian now. It sells for millions. Critics call her one of the most important emerging painters of her generation, and I tried to help destroy her. That's who I was. I'm trying to be someone different now. Someone who tells the truth even when it costs everything. I learned that from her. Even if she never speaks to me again. I called Kevin that night. First time since the trial. Hello? He sounded shocked. I read the article. Mom, I didn't think you'd... It was honest, brutal, fair. You didn't make excuses. I couldn't. There are no excuses for what I did. There aren't. I paused. But there's something you should know. I'm not ready to forgive you. I don't know if I ever will be. But I'm willing to talk, occasionally, on my terms, if you can accept that. I can. I will. Thank you, Mom. That's more than I deserve. We talked for 20 minutes. Awkward. Careful. He told me about his community service, teaching art to kids in juvenile detention. 200 hours completed, 300 to go. They remind me of me at that age, he said, wanting to make art, being told it's not practical, not valuable. I'm trying to tell them differently now. Your paintings, the ones in New York, I saw photos online. They're beautiful. I wish I'd told you that a year ago, before everything. I hung up, sat on my couch, looked at the walls. New paintings hung there now. Works in progress. A cityscape at dawn, a ferry in fog, a portrait of Jessica laughing. I was painting my life, the real one, the one I'd built after everything fell apart. In April, I got a letter, forwarded by Catherine, from Richard, prison stationery, Federal Correctional Institution, Sheridan, Oregon. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. I know I'm not supposed to contact you. This letter is probably a violation, but I need to say this. I stole from you. I humiliated you. I conspired with Melissa and Kevin to defraud you of millions. I forged documents. I lied to auction houses. I destroyed our marriage for money. And now I'm sitting in a cell realizing I lost everything that mattered. You were an artist. A real one. I was too arrogant to see it. Too focused on money and status and winning. I thought your painting was a hobby, a waste of time, a midlife crisis. I was wrong about all of it. Your work hangs in museums now. Collectors pay millions for your paintings. Critics call you important. The world sees what I refuse to see. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to know that I understand now. I see you now. Too late. But I see you. I have 12 years before parole. Maybe more. I'll spend every day of it regretting what I did. You won, Evelyn. Not just the case. Not just the money. You won at life. You became who you were meant to be despite me trying to stop you. I read the letter twice, then put it in a drawer. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. Richard finally saw me. Finally understood what he'd destroyed. Finally recognized the artist I'd become. But it was too late. I'd moved on. In June, I had my second solo show, Seattle Art Museum, 40 new pieces, all created in the last year. The opening drew 300 people, including Jessica, Catherine, Detective Park, Marcus Chen, Takeshi Yamamoto flew in from Tokyo, and Kevin, standing in the back, watching quietly. I saw him, nodded once. He smiled. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was acknowledgement. He'd come to support me, to witness what he'd tried to help destroy. That meant something. The show sold out in 2 weeks. Every piece. Total sales. 32 million. I was 59 years old. A working artist. Financially independent. Internationally recognized. I'd started painting at 55. 4 years ago. In my basement. Teaching myself. Documenting everything. Creating beauty because I needed to. Richard had tried to steal that. To claim it. To profit from it. To erase me. I stood in the museum looking at my work on the walls. Professional lighting. Gallery labels. Viewers studying the brushwork. The color. The composition. Jessica appeared at my elbow. How does it feel? Surreal. A year ago, I was fighting to prove these paintings were mine. Now they're selling for millions. Now, I'm an artist. A real one. You were always a real artist, Evelyn. The world just caught up. Richard tried to destroy me, but he accidentally did something else. He proved I'm not fragile. I'm not a hobbyist. I'm not a delusional old woman with a midlife crisis. I'm an artist who survived theft, fraud, betrayal, and public humiliation, and came out stronger. That's one hell of an origin story. It's the only one I've got. I spent the rest of the evening talking to collectors, to curators, to critics, to other artists who'd followed my story. At midnight, I drove home. My house, my sanctuary, my studio in the basement where it all started. I went downstairs, turned on the lights, looked at my easel. A blank canvas waited, stretched, primed, ready. I picked up my palette, squeezed out paint, cobalt blue, titanium white, cadmium yellow. I started painting. No plan, no reference, just instinct and skill and 4 years of practice. The brush moved across the canvas. Color appeared. Light, shadow, form. I painted until 3 a.m., then stepped back. It was better than good, and no one could ever take that away again. I cleaned my brushes, covered the painting, turned off the lights. Tomorrow I'd paint more. The day after that. The day after that. For the rest of my life. Because I wasn't Evelyn Whitmore, the woman whose husband stole her paintings. I was Evelyn Whitmore, artist. And that was the only identity that mattered.